Let us explore the 21st lesson, Naropa's 5th yoga of Bardo Contemplation. This is Lama Jigme Gyatso of the Buddha Joy Meditation School. Welcome to Meditate Like a Jedi. Going to take a moment to say hello to Joyce. We will cover new information that will most likely confuse you. Do not be shy. Type in your questions in the chat area, and I'll do my best to get to them in a timely manner. If you are terribly extroverted, use the Instagram link in the description area below the video and join the Instagram live stream. Smash the request button. And if I notice it out of the corner of my eye, I'll smash my button and we can speak. You can ask me your question face to face and in real time. Now, if I don't notice it, my button to give you permission will go away, which is lame. Which means if after 10 seconds I don't notice you, leave the Instagram live stream and then rejoin it and try it again. Needless to say, that's not mandatory. That's only if you really want to speak to me face to face. Otherwise, the chat will work just fine. And so take a moment or two to introduce yourself. Tell me your name, what your greatest need is this evening. While you do that, I will open up tonight's practice text. As you can see, it is a Word document. When you download this lesson text, this practice text from the download page, you guessed it, whose link is found in the whose link is found in the description area below the video. You will notice these are PDFs. PDFs that have been formatted specifically to be read upon your smartphone when it's held horizontally. The best way to read it is to open it up with the free Kindle app. Do not open it as a Kindle doc, open it as a PDF. If you do that, navigation and bookmarking will be a breeze. Because losing one shit in the name of peace is like fucking in the name of virginity. Without further blathering, let's move forward to tonight's lesson. Naropa's 5th yoga of the Bardo. So, this is the 21st lesson. Clearly, there have been 20 lessons before this. Now, does that mean if this is your first time, you're not welcome here and I'm going to chase you out with a cattle prod? No, not at all. Not even a little bit. You are welcome, and I'll do my best to make this make sense to you. Ideally, each lesson could stand alone. The nice thing about this system is that it keeps repeating every X number of days. It just starts over again. I just keep teaching every night, and you can jump on anytime you want. Kind of like the monorail at Disneyland. The 5th yoga of Naropa is arguably the most popular in all the 4 sects of Tibetan Buddhism. They might not, the funny thing is they probably don't use the same terminology, the same nomenclature, but they use the same techniques. In any spiritual organization, the majority tend to be fundamentalists or yang or patriarchs. The minority tend to be yin or matriarchs or liberals. And say are, I mean or. I have a problem pronouncing or sometimes. So the people who are prone to patriarchy are prone to rigidity and controlling and fear, and they really get uptight about terminology. But there's impossible to become a Buddha and remain a fundamentalist. Along the way, one must shed their fear and aggression and controlling tendencies. So why not just start off on the path of yin, the path of matriarchy, the path of acquiescence and gentleness and surrender. As with the Buddhist tradition has been around approximately 25 to 26 centuries, and that's a lot of time for each technique to earn a bunch of nicknames. And this, the Bardo yoga of Naropa, is no exception. It too has many nicknames. One of my favorites is the name, the Three Bringings. Three Bringings is deliciously cryptic. And we will explain it as the course goes, as tonight's lesson goes on. So let's jump right in. And by the way, we see a painting on the screen of two archetypes of enlightenment, a female and a male, engaging in tantric union. In Sanskrit, that is known as karma mudra, and in Tibet, that is known as yab yum. The female's name is in Sanskrit Raktatare, and in Tibetan Drolma Marmo, and in English Red Tara or Red Star. In this tradition, I teach from the perspective that it's safest to assume that these are merely archetypes. If they are real entities, fine. But for the sake of not falling into fear and superstition and grasping, it's most empowering to view these entities as purely archetypes. As we explained, in Naropa's second yoga, all mammals are born wired to cling to their parents as if their survival depended upon it, for it most certainly does, especially in days of yore, when those who were not born with that instinct did not live long enough to pass on that trait. And every mammalian child loses that trait, or that trait goes into dormancy once they hit puberty and their own reproductive drives kick in, and they forsake mother and father and go find a mate and make their own family. And that's natural, and that works well with evolution. But there's a hiccup when adults are subject to enough stress. They revert back to their infantile programming and seek a real or imagined celestial parent to forgive them and protect them and guide them. And that can really stoke the fires of grasping. Sadly, grasping is antithetical to the Buddha's path of liberation. And so the great Buddhist saints figured out how to help people who are prone to that type of superstitious grasping. And that is to say, fine, if you believe in a Buddha or a Buddha, male or female, and you think they have godlike powers and they live in a godlike paradise of light, and they have a godlike body of light, and they have a godlike speech of light, and their mind is in the shape of a syllable of light. If that's how you want to work it, because that was very common in ancient India to think that way, then from the Buddhist point of view, we would say, great, let's view the myth of a Buddha's paradise and a Buddha's body and a Buddha's speech and a Buddha's mind of light as a paradigm or as a simile or as a metaphor for non-graspability. And that's what we're going to explore tonight as well. Belief is not required, just an effort and enthusiasm to play with these techniques and notice how they feel in our body. I can guarantee this, that if all you do is listen to these techniques, perhaps with arms crossed and face scowling, you'll be wasting your own time and energy. But if you practice along with me, and if you download the practice text after class, and play with this set of techniques for approximately 20 minutes every morning, and approximately 20 minutes every evening, for 7 consecutive days, and then evaluate the results you've generated. Then and only then will you be able to make a rational assessment as to the efficacy of this set of techniques. When we read the the translations of the ancient discourses of the Buddha, it became obvious that he taught what could be described as a proto-scientific method, where you start with a hypothesis and you act upon it and you notice your results. And that's how you decide whether or not the hypothesis was correct. Not based on the popularity of the hypothesis, or the age of the hypothesis, or the reputation of the hypothesis, or the popularity of the hypothesis. The proof of the pudding is in the tasting. We shall begin with change contemplation. If we take a literal view of the Buddha's teachings, we will see that a life is a continual cycle of death and rebirth and life and death and rebirth and life and death and rebirth and life and death and rebirth and life. Now, if you are a liberal and view that merely as a metaphor, that's fine too. Everyone dies. We can die gently in bed, surrounded by our loved ones in comfort, perhaps just falling asleep. We can die racked in pain. We can die in violence. But regardless of the method of death, our senses will coalesce inward upon ourselves rapidly. And one of the nice things about the following contemplation is it helps us to become very acclimated to the idea, to the experience of our perceptions rapidly closing in upon themselves like an umbrella that we shake out and then close. This next set of contemplations is rapid fire. We're just going to play with each contemplation just for one round of breath and then move rapidly on. It's a great way to explore the interplay of change and interdependence. Before we jump in, let me say real hi real quick to this individual here. Before we jump in, I'm going to give you an overview. You don't have to memorize it. You don't even have to visualize it. Although if you listen carefully, your subconscious probably will visualize it. All beings of all worlds, except for Earth, could blissfully melt into rainbow light, and that's impermanence, that then absorbs into their worlds, all worlds other than Earth, and that is interdependence. And then all worlds other than Earth can melt into rainbow light, that's impermanence. And that could absorb into Earthlings, all the Earthlings, and that's interdependence. All the Earthlings, except for the ones in our neighborhood, could blissfully melt into rainbow light. That's impermanence. That rainbow light could absorb into Earth. That's interdependence. All of Earth, except for our neighborhood, could melt into rainbow light. That's impermanence. All that rainbow light could melt into our neighbors. That is interdependence. All of our neighbors could blissfully melt into rainbow light. That's impermanence. That rainbow light could melt into our bodies. That is interdependence. Our bodies could melt into rainbow light. That is impermanence. That rainbow light could melt into our speech, perhaps symbolized by a mantra running around in a circle like a train set. And that's interdependence. Our mantra speech could melt into rainbow light. That's impermanence. That absorbs into our mind in the shape of a syllable T. That is interdependence. Our mind in the shape of a syllable T could melt into rainbow light. That is impermanence. That rainbow light could melt into the infinite expanse of openness. That is interdependence. Wow, that's a whole lot. I hope your brains do not explode. Now, the first time I received that meditation, my mind was delightfully blown in the most wonderful way. I'm now going to teach you a way to contemplate that is really easy, super, super easy. I would say super duper easy, but I think Cinnamon Hitler now holds the patent on the phrase super duper. So, by the way, this change contemplation is a way of contemplating the Madhyamaka philosophy developed by the Indian Mahayana scholar Nagarjuna that reconciles interdependence and impermanence and non-graspability. We're going to do it right now in a distinctly non-scholarly, yogic, visceral, easy way. Because if it's not easy, it's not sustainable. We're going to begin by touching the tip of our left thumb to our left little finger and sliding that tip down to the lower set of creases of our left little finger. That's how we're going to keep track of our sets. We're going to keep track of our repetitions or our breaths upon our right hand, beginning with the lower set of creases of our right little finger and then moving to the middle set of creases of our right middle finger. On the in-breath, we silently and mentally recite, all beings melt. On the out-breath, we silently and mentally recite, into worlds. No, our job is not to visualize this. Our job is not to concentrate upon this. Our job is not to analyze this. If all we do is use our inner monologue to silently and mentally recite these words in harmony with our breathing, that is enough. All beings melt into worlds. All worlds melt into earthlings. If any of my STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math, if any of my STEM brothers and sisters are here, clearly this is not cosmology. This is a metaphor. And anyone who is smart enough to go to Caltech and get a PhD knows the difference between a literal and a figurative line of reasoning. So, this is figurative. Enjoy yourself. I'm talking to you, Neil deGrasse Tyson. Okay. We are now going to work with the higher set of creases on the tip of our right little finger. Earthlings melt into earth. Earth now melts into neighbors. And now we begin counting upon the 3 sets of creases and tip of our right ring finger. Neighbors melt into here. Here now melts into form. Every night when we fall asleep, whether we are aware of it or not, all our senses rapidly coalesce upon ourselves. And if it happens too quickly, we have that weird dream of falling and actually bouncing a little bit on our bed. So that is, according to many tantric philosophers, that is a foreshadowing of the death experience. Whether that is or is not, it's still an interesting experiment in impermanence and interdependence. For impermanence can feed our wisdom of letting go, and interdependence can feed our empathy and cooperation and love. Form now melts into speech. Speech now melts into mind. Mind now melts into void. And void is just an empty space. You know, kind of like when you look into the sky on a clear day, when there are no clouds, and the sky is this beautiful electric blue, especially in the morning. And it's beautiful, and you reach for it, but you come back with an empty hand. It's non-graspable. That's what we're looking at here. Mind now melts into void. Infinite emptiness. Infinite emptiness. We do it a second time. And now we're on our right index finger. Infinite openness. If you're not careful, you might feel a sense of spaciousness. And now we rest the mind. At night when we fall asleep, before we dream, after we fall asleep, before we dream, there's a gap of thoughtlessness. That we're using that. Now, many literalists say that happens after death. After we die, there's a gap of thoughtlessness, and then we experience the Bardo in-between state. That, whether that's accurate or metaphoric or phantasmagoric, doesn't matter. We're going to use it as a metaphor for letting go. So we're now going to advance our left thumb up our left little finger until it comes to the middle set of creases. And And now we're just going to hang out. On the in-breath, we're going to recite and notice this. On the out-breath, we're going to recite relaxing. This recitation is silent and mental. This is not concentration, active and compressing and controlling and analyzing. This is the opposite. This is passive. This is vulnerable. This is acquiescent. This is flowing like water. We don't analyze. We don't even label. And if we feel the urge to label, the only label we use is the word this, which is deliciously vague. Whatever we notice, whether it's external or internal, pleasurable or painful, glorious or grotesque, whether it is sensation or flavor or scent or sight or sound, whether it is emotion or intention or calculation, whether it is memory or whether it is fantasy, whatever we notice is simply this. Notice this relaxing, because physical relaxation is the carrier wave. It is the precursor of mental release. Let us begin on the 3 sets of creases and tip of our right little finger. Notice this relaxing. Thank you for the comment, Joyce. Now let's work on our right ring finger. Notice this relaxing. Now we are going to count upon the 3 sets of creases and tip of our right, the middle finger. Notice this relaxing. Let us count upon the 3 sets of creases and tip of our right index finger and notice this relaxing. Now we're going to change gears. At night, after we fall asleep, we emerge from the swoon of thoughtlessness into a dreamscape, where we quietly lose our minds most of the time. Sometimes we make a ruckus, but most of the time we're quiet as mice. Squeak! Last night, we played with the Powa transference of consciousness, which is arguably a dynamic way of taking auspicious rebirth from the fundamentalist perspective. The founder of the Yellow Hat sect of Tibet taught that the most profound and most effective form of transference of consciousness was not ejecting out to the crown of the head like we did last night, but rather the 3 bringings that we are experiencing now. So, the fundamentalists teach that once we wake up in the in-between state, between death and rebirth, if we could see ourselves, we could see our mind as the mind of our favorite archetype of enlightenment. We could see it as a syllable Tom, T-A-M, or just a red letter T, whatever floats our boat. Now, a liberal would say that might be the case, or maybe meditating upon the syllable T is just an opportunity to meditate upon the union of bliss and letting go. And in the Buddhist context, bliss means anything that's not painful, anything that's pleasurable, whether it's very, very coarse or remarkably subtle. So let's play with that right now. Let's advance our left thumb upon our left little finger to the higher set of creases. Grindu heart Tom, relaxing. Our job is not to force ourselves to feel a sensation. Our job is not to congratulate ourselves if we force ourselves into feeling something. Our job is not to berate ourselves if we don't. If all we do is silently and mentally recite Grindu heart Tom, and then relaxing, silently and mentally in harmony with our breathing. If that is all we do, that is enough. Let's play with this right now, beginning on our right little finger. Assuming you are sitting in a chair, head above shoulders, shoulders above tush, hands upon your thighs, palms up, feet flat on the floor, no slouching. Let's count upon the 3 sets and creases and tip of our right ring finger. Let's count upon the 3 sets of creases and tip of our right middle finger. And now let us count upon the 3 sets of creases and tip of our right index finger. And since we've been playing with the syllable Tom for the last 16 breaths, let's now practice love. The love that wishes others well. We're going to advance the tip of our left thumb up our left little finger to its tip. When we practiced the second yoga of Naropa, we practiced the love and letting go in harmony with mantra. That was rather extensive. And then the next night we practiced it in a very, very concise way. This is going to be a happy medium. And we call it because it's going to have both love and letting go, but it's going to be silent. So let us begin by counting upon the 3 sets and creases and tip of our right little finger. Great wisdom for each mind. Oopsie. And now we're going to practice the yoga of the wisdom of letting go through the power of simile. Minds like seed, Tom, clear yet void. If there was a syllable Tom. Now, a Maha Mantra is a multisyllabic mantra. A seed mantra or a bija mantra is a one-syllable mantra. And if there was a syllable comprised of light, it would be non-graspable. It would be as non-graspable as a reflection of the full moon upon the surface of a basin of water. Minds like seed, Tom, clear yet void. What do we mean by clear? Clear means perceptive. Our minds can perceive things. We can perceive sensations and flavors and scents and sights and sounds, as well as the goings-on between our ears. We can perceive emotions and intentions and calculations and recollections and imaginings. Mind is perceptive. That is what we mean by clear. What then do we mean by void? Void is a metaphor for non-graspability. We can illustrate it with the following sentence. As we breathe in, our mind could seem permanent and separate and quite tangible. However, as we breathe out and as we relax into that exhalation, that exact same mind could seem less permanent and less separate and less tangible. In fact, it could feel as non-graspable as a vast empty void, like the infinite azure sky on a bright and beautiful cloudless morn. And now you know the trick to remembering that the word void is just a metaphor for non-graspability, and that the key to experiencing non-graspability is not pseudo-intellectual gymnastics, but merely relaxing into each exhalation, just as the key to mindfulness is simply being observant as we breathe in. So, minds like seed, Tom, clear yet void. And we're going to count upon 4 breaths upon the right ring finger, which is surprising. Okay. And now it's time to practice some more love. This time now, and by the way, you'll notice that the Buddha taught us to organize the objects or perceptions in terms of the 4 bases of mindfulness. So we've just played with the base of mind. Now we're going to play with the base of speech, which deals with the interpersonal phenomena. So we wish that the speech, the communication, verbal and nonverbal, of all beings everywhere be completely marinated in compassion, so that people will be kind and empathetic and cooperative instead of cruel and competitive. Compassion for all speech. Let us count this upon the 3 sets of creases and tip of our right middle finger. Now it's time to practice letting go. We're going to let go through the use of simile. If a mantra was comprised of light, it would be resounding yet non-graspable. Our communication, both verbal and nonverbal, is similarly non-graspable. Speech like mantra, heard yet void. Let us count upon the 3 sets and creases and tip of our right index finger. Well, we've officially run out of little finger. So now we're going to slide the tip of our left thumb over the top of our left little finger until it comes to rest upon the higher knuckle. Not the higher set of creases, but the higher knuckle. And yes, this could feel weird. But if you play with this exercise twice a day, every day for a week, it won't feel so much weird. In fact, I'm reminded of a bumper sticker one of my neighbors in Burbank has upon their car. It reads, "It's only kinky the first time." So, let's turn our attention to health. In the time of pandemic, it should be remarkably easy to wish others health. Let us count upon the 3 sets of creases and tip of our right little finger. Profound health for each form. Now it's time for a bit of the old letting go. Come, let us count upon the 3 sets of creases and tip of our right ring finger. So remember back we looked at that image of those 2 red beings comprised of light making love. The female was named Tare, and we pronounced her name in the 6-syllable mantra a few nights ago. Om Tare Tam Soha. So form like Tare, felt yet void. We don't have to believe or disbelieve in the existence or non-existence of a female Buddha named Tare. If I was to say that guy was as strong as Paul Bunyan, you wouldn't have to believe in Paul Bunyan to get the basic idea that that guy was strong. Likewise, if we say bodies or forms are as non-graspable as a Buddha comprised of light, that would make sense. And that is exactly what we're saying right now. Form like Tare, felt yet void. We notice feelings when we breathe in. We notice their non-graspability when we breathe out. Again with the love. Good fortune for each lot. Lot is a monosyllabic synonym of circumstance, because in contemplation we strive to exercise an economy of syllable. Come, let us count upon the 3 sets of creases and tip of our right middle finger. Good fortune for each lot. Now we are going to count upon the 3 sets of creases and tip of our right index finger. Lots like Vati, seen yet void. Vati is Sanskrit for pure land, which is the literal translation of the idea of a Buddha's real or imagined paradise of light. So, our circumstances, like a real or imagined paradise are as non-graspable as a real or imagined paradise of light. That's the idea that we're playing with right now. Lots like Vati, seen yet void. And now we're going to do the most awkward thing of all. We're going to continue sliding the tip of our thumb down the back of our left little finger until it comes to the middle knuckle. We've done a bunch of contemplating. Now it's time to relax the mind in meditation. Notice this. Relaxing. Let's work with our right little finger. Come, let us count upon the 3 sets of creases and tip of our right ring finger. Notice this. Relaxing. And let's work with our right middle finger. These are our last 4 breaths of tonight's exercise. Let's make them count. Let us count upon the 3 sets of creases and tip of our right index finger. Notice this. Relaxing. And if memory serves correct, that is the conclusion. Yes, it is. This is, as I've mentioned, one of the most favored practices in Tibet. The disabled Gelug Saint Gyalwe Wansapa practiced this over and over and over again in a loop. He would start with the impermanence meditation, and then rest his mind, and then the syllable meditation, and then the love and letting go, and then rest his mind, and then do it all over again, and then do it all over again, and then do it all over again. The love and letting go portion can be done either silently or it can be done verbally, with mantras, however you prefer. It's better to have a small practice you do every day, twice a day, than a great big practice you do once every 3 months. So, practice wisely. And when you practice, jot down your questions and bring those questions to me, either as a direct message on Instagram or as a comment on a video here on YouTube, or as a question in the chat box during the next live stream on YouTube. If you have found value in these live streams or podcasts or blogs or class materials, numerous and free to download, then please consider supporting this channel through a monthly donation by using the link in the description area below the video. If that is not possible at this time, you can support the channel simply by clicking the subscribe button, clicking the bell-shaped notification button, clicking the thumbs up button, and typing a comment into each video or each live stream that you watch. Those things really help with the algorithm. I'm going to take a moment to dispel the myth of the greedy monk. In the Tibetan tradition, neither monks, nor yogis, nor even lamas are supported by monasteries. They live by the donations they receive from friends and family and patrons and students, and if not, they become homeless beggars. My friends, I thank you for your time and your kind attention. Until next we speak, may you and yours be happy and healthy.